Okay, looks like we got the live feed back up, and I think they've got some fixed wing air tanker activity to show us again here. My name's Juan Brown. You're on the Blancolirio channel. This is the live feed from NBC News with the fires in Southern California, the Saddleridge fire. Let's see if I can get this set up for you here.
We got all media 7, 11, 4, and 5.
So this is not the best picture in the world. You might consider going to the NBC live feed yourself there and see if you can get a clear picture of it. Let me see if I can get this. Well, we had some fixed wing activity, but now I'm not seeing them. This is the KNBC live chopper feed, feeding NBC News from the Saddleridge fire in Southern California. And squared up. How's that look?
I would say branch 4, once we're done, get a hold of him. He's trying to figure out another plan.
As usual, when you come back to a fire a couple hours later, the whole landscape changes.
Copy, I've got branch 2 on the website. Can you walk me around?
The UK, okay, you receiving this okay over there? I thought there was some copyright problems from over there.
Branch 4 is back over on the
Now,
west side, down kind of into the community.
Bend, Oregon. Well, come on, live copters, give us some fixed wing tanker activity. There's 3 helicopters working near or around the TFR, the temporary flight restriction area, right now.
It sounded like South Ops wanted us here and you back.
It's mostly a helicopter show right now. We're listening to the audio from Broadcastify, Los Angeles County, major incident. Is what you look for the Broadcastify link. And hopefully they'll put the Google map up and tell us exactly what freeways we're looking at here. But it looks like it's hopped a major freeway.
But we'll just keep hitting it with rotary, and then we can see if we can get some.
Those are the choppers talking there. As far as air tanker bases, I think they're using Channel Islands and maybe Riverside. Okay, there it is, I-5. So they're working the I-5 and the 14 intersection. Now, I'm from Northern California. This is hundreds of miles away from me, so I'm not intimately familiar with this Southern California terrain. That's the 14 going to the left, okay? And we're facing south. Thanks.
We got a little bit, but yeah, whatever you guys figure out.
And I just want to confirm, we're still looking at the Saddleridge fire, correct?
We're up, cut.
Because this looks completely different from what we were looking at this morning.
1-2 has everything they need. We can go to San Bernardino or return Santa Maria.
Area 4, okay, 14 goes to Lancaster and Edwards, and that's Fox Field might be the other tanker base that they're using.
Copy that. Break, Dozer 3. Yep, I'm through. Talk to South Ops. It sounds like 07 will be transitioning with you. We'll be outbound.
Well, there's not much fixed wing air tanker activity going on here, at least on the video feed, which is rather disappointing. We had some great air tanker activity earlier this morning on this live feed. Yeah, still no power here. I've turned the generator off. We're just running off of batteries right now, and
air tax at 6,500, tankers 5,000 and below, multiple copters 3,500. Tankers 5,000, copters 3,500 and below, and we got the media at 8,500.
Okay.
016, we're cleared 7,500. You're 6,500. Tankers 5,000, rotors 3,500, TV at 8,500.
Got it.
Affirmative.
That's the big part of this job, is they got to separate everybody by altitudes. Media helicopters up high. I think you said 8,500 feet.
Split the fire in half. We got the west side and the east side. The west side has its own helco, and we're utilizing the 123.17 for that, Rick.
Helco is the helicopter
East side helco as well, and we're utilizing
coordinator. So they got two of them now, west side and east side helicopter coordinators.
Air Tactics 169-1000, and then
They're splitting up the frequencies.
8300, tone 100. Okay. And then I think, hopefully you got the command to the LAC V3.
So basically got the media helicopters up high, the air tankers in mid-level altitudes, and the helicopters down low,
Copter 2.
keeping everybody separated vertically.
Copter 4, Copter 5, 735, 530, 37 Sierra, and Orca 61.
That's a lot of helicopters. A big-time helicopter show going on right now, and helicopters generally are doing direct attack on the flames as these flames approach these houses. Fixed-wing air tanker activity is usually indirect attack, well away from the head of the fire, so to speak, usually. But we don't have a good example of that in this feed right now.
Helco is Copter 15, and they got Copter 17, 532, 528.
You got the same feed on the Weather Channel. Okay, good. So it might be good to, if you pull the feed up on your internet, and then you can maybe listen to this narrative I'm doing over the top of a good feed. I don't know how good this picture is showing up on your screen, because it doesn't look very good on my screen. Again, it does bring back memories. I'm on battery. Oh, that's getting close to the houses right there. Look at that. Firefighters on the ground, of course, are doing the direct attack, working these houses.
Jeff thinks either Alpha Valley or 7 Alpha Leader Valley. We're scouting right now. If we get in this direction, we can bird dog them into the spot.
Now, I'm not sure what started this fire, the Saddleridge fire. There was another fire in Riverside County that was started by a dump truck dumping hot ashes. If somebody has the source, has gotten a word on what this fire was started from, I believe that none of these fires at this point were started by power lines, as far as we know. And here in the Saddleridge area, I believe the power was on. Crap, there it goes again. Oh, there it is.
But recently we've been working on the other side of the highway. Retardants, we're calling it the dump, the big open pit area to the west side of the highway.
UK, good, all right.
Okay, now let us sneak in front of you.
What's that say? Wing of Foot Road?
Yeah, if you can hold out and let us get in behind 532 for space.
Now the live feed itself is starting to crap out from the media helicopter, and that is certainly not very exciting.
Fire on the south side of the big power line.
So we're trying to catch the light. Here it comes. Gosh darn, it's glitchy. And that's not my end, that's their end.
I got 15 in front. Yep, 15 final position. I come in behind you.
So the media choppers are focusing on this direct attack near the houses. The air tanker operation is somewhere else right now. Flight Radar 24, is it getting confused?
Okay, did you see where 15 dropped on his last drop? Further up the line and up over the top of the ridge? I didn't, but I see the...
Tanker 15, anybody know which tanker that is by chance?
Right turn, out to my right, if you got me. I'm trying to keep this from hooking and basically taking out the canyon that you've been working on. So anything in there that you could do to knock the hot stuff down. Okay, got it. Right there, thanks.
So he's talking about the fire hooking around his fire line and heading back up the canyon that they worked so hard at saving. But that's not happening right here. We're looking at something completely different. It's not the screen that's dirty, it's the quality of the picture. Well, it probably is dirty.
I'll show you way. Copy that. Yeah, I was just driving slow to give you some time to turn.
Yeah, the smoke from the fire is not helping. Obscured visibility in here. That's why you don't see fixed-wing air tankers operating down in conditions like this. The visibility is just too poor, and the power line threat is much too high. That's why the air tankers need to work up on the higher terrain towards the flank of the fire. There you can see some firefighters direct attacking those flames right off the streets there. Over 25 homes lost so far. Yeah, that was the case earlier this morning. Yeah, I'm trying to get that camera angle up a little better for you. And there goes Pete. There's no school today here as we are out of power. We're out of power up here at home. There is power in town, but they couldn't serve lunch to the kids, so they canceled the school for a whole nother day. CBS Channel 2 covering it.
We've been keep bugging dispatch, but I was told they were going to be up here at 11:30. Okay, and was that 7-1?
Hey Pete, go get that FedEx package. I think that's the model airplane parts.
The other one coming out of Fox, 7-1.
Tanker 02 is the Neptune. Thanks.
Did talk about jumping up the CFR to air off.
Well, I wish we had more fixed-wing air tanker activity to show you.
North and one on each side, east-west, and then bringing it down to the airspace of Burbank.
Latest word is 78 structures destroyed. Okay, that. Wow.
As far as contacts, we're going to get back to Branch 4. He's over in the area we're flying right now. West side of the community up to, we're just calling it like the pipeline.
This fire is nowhere near us. This fire is in Southern California. It's a couple hundred miles away from us here in Northern California. It's a completely different fire structure than what we're used to in Northern California. This is the Chaparral of Southern California that's burning, that burns every year. And it gets very close to these homes that are so tightly packed in the valleys in between these mountains. Good one, Pete. Was that say? Hey, look at this! From our sponsors, Santa Barbara Chocolate. All right. The Santa Barbara Chocolates have come through. Thank you for sponsoring the Blancolirio channel, Jason. We got him.
And that was Copter 1-1. A firm. Okay, and that's a sign, correct?
How many fires are currently burning in California? We've got just one major fire up here in Northern California. The Bryceburg fire was over 4,500 acres, only one structure is the last report on that out by Yosemite. And here in Southern California, I think they got at least two major fires going right now. It's the Santa Ana wind events that are driving these fires in Southern California. These are basically the same winds that we had up here that have moved down to Southern California, the same winds up here that caused the massive PG&E power outage here in Northern California. These winds have moved down south and created the Santa Ana wind conditions. That's the hot, dry winds from the east to the west, descending out of the mountains, creating these dangerous fire conditions every year in Southern California.
Okay,
Pete's getting into the chocolates now.
we're going to determine the area we'd like to start dropping. That's the operation going to be in the airspace conflict. We're on copy that. We're 10-5.
Yeah, Chewy's on alert. Keep an alert on the chocolates.
TV7. TV7 air tech.
Moonshine Canyon, is that what we're looking at here?
Over the 405 and 118 back inbound work over the fire. 8,500 inbound to relieve news copter.
Time for some lens cleaner. Thanks, Mr. Capwell.
I'm wondering if you had gotten eyes on that. Scratchy.
Yeah, the fire is right at the doorsteps of these houses in this area.
Further west, and there's a dozer line drops straight off the hill.
Yeah, I would love to do some more wildfire coverage like this. We just saw one of the helicopters doing the direct attack in here. can see all these homes have pools in them as well. They can dip out of there if they need be. If the winds shift, they're going to lose it. And I don't know if they're talking about this, but you can see the winds working away from these homes, but the fire's still trying to creep up this hill. Yeah, show us what you got here, Pete. There you go. Cocoa powder, Santa Barbara chocolate. Wow.
Communication of Bravo was talking to the ground for line clearance.
What else is in there, Pepe?
Okay, that's that. We're gonna get started and I'll let you know if we got any conflicts we need to work out. Copy that.
Thanks, Douglas. Oh, your mom's in that valley? I'm assuming that these areas are all evacuated.
Deputy Ops 2, Bridge 1 here.
Hot chocolate here. That's a big one, Pete.
Next objective, just gonna be buttoning up that stuff over by the dump. They're kind of running out of work there.
Pete, see what's in there.
I'm at the 514 split. Yeah, pretty much, sir. We're
I'm not sure.
tie in this area. The dozers had to pull off to refuel, and we're trying not to lose a lot of their work.
Wow. 737's flying out of Palmdale. 100,000 under mandatory evacuation. Thanks, guys. This is good information. Animal rescue is a big part of each firefighting experience. Yes.
Okay, copy that.
Huh. They can't dip into the pools because you'll get tangled up in the pool vac hose. That's a good point.
And what's the tanker lineup?
Yeah, Foxfield is a big-time tanker base. I was based out of there for a while.
168, tanker 10911 and 107.
Yeah, what's in there, Pete?
And East Elko 7370. 370, East Elko, go ahead. Yep, we're coming over. I got you off my nose over the cemetery there. We're coming at you, heading down to the busy dip. Okay, you have LA County 15, which is a Blackhawk. You have helicopters 532, 528, and Fort Charlie Kilo.
Fires, floods, and earthquakes. Welcome to the California seasons.
Bouncing back and forth.
We can dip into the pools. Thanks. Thanks, Fabrication.
Myself in 83.
Oh, look at this. What is this? Oh.
Weight is off your going into the dip first, please. Go ahead.
This live update brought to you by Santa Barbara Chocolates. What do you think, Pete? Is it a winner? The stream that we're listening to is Broadcastify. Look up Broadcastify, Los Angeles County. Wow, Ron, thanks. Wow. And thanks so much for your wonderful support. You're working this fire, Senseless. You're down there. Wow. The Neptune is lining up now for Fox Field. Look up Broadcastify, Los Angeles County, major incident air frequencies, and you'll find it.
Okay, copy. When they refuel, are they going to be able to complete that piece when they return?
Santa Barbara Chocolate's coming through. Wow.
He got a good eye on that, and he made it seem like it's tough for them to get around that section there. There is a trail with a road system just below it. So if anything, it would each way kind of back down towards that trail. Okay, copy.
I don't know if that radio transmission is specifically about this, but
Crew buggies up there to connect the dots on that piece. I'm up on a high point, well above the section where they were. I'm going to make
see if this news helicopter will back out a bit. But this is dying off down here. It looks like. I don't see much active flame down in there. A link to the video feed, just go to NBC News. NBC News, it's right up there at the top. Yeah, Senseless, tell us more about what's going on down there.
You can get that assessment for me. Need to put in a resource order in about an hour and a half. So, Brand 4 planning on what you need up there. I'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah, planning house from Brand 4.
These fires make a big mess out of your pools down there, I bet. Again, these Broadcastify audio broadcasts have several frequencies working at the same time. If you're an air attack guy, you are working air to air, air to ground, and helicopter frequency. You are working in often 3 frequencies simultaneously. It's extremely busy work. Looks like all fire trucks in there. Brazil. Buenos dias.
Planning operations for Branch 4, and if you can fill the order, they'll report to division. We were fighting here until they started that. Boulevard. Once we start monitoring.
Houses packed in that valley like sardines.
Copy that. There will pass behind it.
Western Massachusetts.
Garrett needs to go to Fox after this fuel cycle. 370 Fox.
Going to Fox after this fuel cycle. I'm assuming he's talking about Fox Field, Lancaster. That was a major air tanker base there, or still is.
Branch 4 planning up 4 water tenders, tactical for Branch 4. Dispatch, Air Attack 5-2 on National. That's affirmed.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. I wished I had control of this news helicopter camera. I could sure help the news station direct themselves to where the fire is. But yeah, look at that. Fire burned right in that canyon between those 2 housing developments there. But it looks like the houses have survived just fine. There's the layover map, the Google Map layover. Winged Footway, Willow Springs Drive.
Okay, we'll release Copter 15, and while I have you,
Catalonia.
Tanker 37 Sierra needs to return to Fox at the end of this cycle.
Kern County, yeah, he's going to return to Fox Field. Pete, let's get this kind of organized and back into the box here, if you would, please.
15 from Helco, you are released back to Mark. Okay, copy that.
The local wildlife in this area, in this Los Angeles area, mostly coyotes.
On the west side of the power line between
Christchurch checking in.
about a half a mile rectangular stretch of land that's going all the way north-south following the freeway.
Yeah, some reports of about 78 structures or so lost so far.
Actually, it's mid-Santa Clarita, so it's further south as I can say.
Michael, thank you, sir. Jenny Morgan's checking in.
Helicopter 530 on 130.7.
Orlando. So still not a whole lot of fixed wing air tanker activity. That was primarily what I was wanting to show you here today, but it's just simply not happening here as the news choppers are looking at this fire very close to the houses.
Correction on your assignment.
Yeah.
You were working with the West Telco.
Looks like another hot spot up here.
Contact him on
So the fire gets going in these hills and then gets blown by the winds towards down the hills towards these houses in these Santa Ana conditions. Roger, thank you, sir.
130.7 works with the dip side, so you get
Pyramid Lake is a few miles to the north and east. Big fire break. Look at that big fire break there. A very effective fire break for those houses. And they were able to use this road as an effective fire break right along there.
Go ahead for Branch 4. So for my show here, kind of down below in the street. Hey, Chris, I'm going to go to the right area. On the truck. Copy that.
So that's back in the black they're showing us there. Not much going on.
Deputy Ops 2 on command. 7-4's got you. 7-4's I'll pass behind you. Okay,
Adjacent to Van Norman Dam. Thanks. Okay, there's a bigger, broader view. Here's the Santa Ana winds coming from the east, northeast, down the mountains, heating and compressing and heading towards the homes. Up here is where you have your air tanker fire retardant show up on these ridge tops. Because the air tankers, the fixed wing air tankers, can work up here in the relatively smoother and clearer air.
All fires on the right-hand shoulder between the 210 along the 5 going up the 14.
We got some sort of aircraft right there.
We want to get this freeway reopened as soon as
We want to get the freeway reopened, they say. The freeway's been closed.
One strike team. Let me know the identifier.
Train coming in that might be able to help you. I'm not sure it's call sign yet.
Here we can see some retardant that's been worked on that ridge. That might have been the ridge we were working earlier this morning.
All embers and fires along the shoulder. North to the 14.
It started trying to contain it. It's starting to move quickly. Thanks, Senseless.
Saddleridge Air Tech Command.
They're painting the north side of the fire now. I wish this news chopper would get in on the fixed wing action.
Just transitioned Air Tech 07's with you until just about 1500. And want to firm up the relief lead plane should be over the fire by now.
Good relief lead plane.
Along the 5 freeway northbound.
So the lead planes coordinate to overlap each other and relieve each other of duty so that one can go back and get fuel, eat a sandwich, take a break, and then come back. And you can work about a 3-hour shift as a lead plane pilot. That was the job I was training up for in the Forest Service that keeps my interest in this so vividly. You can see this fire break working all the way through these ridges. These fire breaks are already built into the terrain there, and it looks like they're holding it at this fire break here with an extensive amount of retardant right here on the backside of this fire break. And that's what you want to do. You got the fire on this side, fire break, and then retardant over here to stop that fire from slopping over that fire break or that ridge. And that amount of retardant slows the fire enough to where ground troops hopefully can stop it at that fire break.
6171.
I don't know how exactly this fire started here in Saddleridge, but it does not appear to be power pole related at this time. So even though the winds are blowing down slope, the fire tends to creep up the slope and back up into the wind. And of course, they want to try and knock that steam out of that fire as it heads towards the homes below. So I don't know if we've got homes up here that are threatened or
Try to hit it from that bottom and I'll see what I can do.
power lines. See all those power lines? That is the most terrifying part of aerial firefighting in Southern California especially, are the power lines that are just absolutely everywhere in the terrain where the fires naturally are in the Chaparral. You need to know where those power lines are at all times, and they often get obscured by smoke, and that's the last kind of surprise you want, is a set of power lines showing up right in front of you that you've overlooked or forgotten about or got obscured by smoke.
For that strike team to go up Balboa.
Okay, we got a fixed wing air tanker. Looks like Erickson's Mad Dog air tanker.
From the 14. Okay.
Now we watched this guy operate earlier this morning. What's his tanker number there? 101? 101? We got a DC-10 on the way. These guys will be dropping on the high ridge tops. There's the old retardant line.
And that could be our fence. No aircraft east of those wires. Okay, seeing those now. They start in the black and then...
When he's got his gear down, he'll be getting ready to drop.
That's affirmative. They're about a half mile to 3/4 of a mile. Freeway north-south.
He's paralleling. Let's see, what's he going to do here? Okay, there's the lead plane there. Lead plane there, tanker back here is about a quarter mile to a half mile difference. The lead plane is in the King Air, and of course the video feed craps out. There's the smoke. That's where he wants him to drop. Poof, poof. 2 puffs of smoke. He wants to extend this line of retardant here. Here comes the Erickson air tanker, the DC-10. Look at that shadow, and there's the drop. Right along the ridge there. Good drop. Yeah, awesome flying. Now, it'd be nice to pan back and look at that drop and see what's going on with the drift at this point. The lead plane pilot needs to look back and see how that drift is going to make sure he put that retardant on the correct side of the line that he wanted. Now, that is a very far away indirect attack as they're trying to bolster this line here in anticipation of this fire working its way all the way up to there. They don't try to stop the fire directly with air tankers. They're drawing a line, a boundary line that they want to try and maintain, and just let the fire fill in, burn it out in there. Thank you, sir. Mr. Howard.
Saddleridge, air attack, you have Bravo 7-1, ETA 1212.
Yeah, I haven't tried the different fuels in the generator yet. I think we're okay on fuel for now. Got a DC-10 inbound. The red stuff does not kill the trees. The red stuff nowadays is Phosgene. It's mostly clay, and it has fertilizer in it. Yeah, we don't want to assume things that we don't know about. Okay, here's I-5, and is that the 10 over there? And 14. 5 and 14.
Branch 1 from Deputy Ops 2, on command.
I wish I knew this terrain a little better. Balboa Boulevard right there.
Work out your patterns with the other aircraft.
Another lead inbound from Fox.
Left to left or right to right, but you'll work it out. Okay, we're under that contract. Looks like everyone's going to be doing this.
So you can see how close this fire is getting to the population down below, or how close it did get. We do not know the cause of this fire. Yeah, neat overlay of the Google Maps. That's new technology to me. There you can see that fire working right off the top of that ridge line right there. This is all Southern California Chaparral. It's that high-octane Chaparral. It burns all the time down here in Southern California. That's why they have these built-in fire breaks all through the terrain there. Anytime you fly into Los Angeles, especially if you're coming in from the north, you'll fly right over all this terrain and you can take a good look at it. Steep, rugged terrain, high-octane Chaparral, covered in high-tension power lines and these fire break roads. But look at all the little spotting, or maybe these were the former hot spots.
If we have to push the reset button, look at another opportunity.
And low humidity low humidity and high winds are always associated with these Santa Ana conditions. Those air tankers work very closely with ground crews. The whole idea is for mutual support of the ground crews. They're simply retarding the flames enough to allow the ground crews to get a fire line built around it and the flames stopped. Pretty good hot spot right there. I think avgas is going to work fine in the generators on a temporary basis. We've got power on downtown, and I'll get some proper gas here later today. But
Branch 4, deputy altitude, augment.
yeah, this will be a natural fire break for this little section of fire. They'll probably let this burn out. Maybe there's another road right along there.
Branch 4 from deputy altitude on command.
Thanks, Mark.
Go ahead for branch 4.
Reverse course westbound. Hey, we're looking at getting the freeway open by 1300. I know that bowl's really burning out, and you got some guys in the middle of the freeway as spotters. Are you guys going to be able to support that plan of a 1300?
They're really pushing hard to get these freeways open in Southern California. That's a big deal down there with all the traffic. So they're gonna. I think they're talking about I-5.
From my perspective, I'm good with it. I would tie in with branch 5 and talk to Alconis and make sure he's good. And then
You'll hear terminologies like branches and divisions. Thanks, Les. Whaley Bridge. Branches and divisions is how they break up the workforce on these fires once they become a large complex like this, just like a military operation. And those are broken up geographically around the perimeter of the fire.
I got you there now, Hans. All right, you got eyes on us right now.
Hey, there he is, the DC-10. Outstanding. Watch this. Finally, we got some action.
That's Division Victor from
Flaps are down.
heading west is Division Tango.
This is Tanker 911, I believe.
Is Tango. And
Tanker 10.
to the east.
I think is 6,000 gallon capacity, if I remember right.
With Tango previously, we're over the retardant we put in on Tango right now. Then on the,
These make awesome air tankers. This is considered a VLAT, or very large air tanker. We did see the 737 earlier today. There's a nice shot. Tanker 911, yes.
Okay, so I got that right. The dump to the east is Victor. The dump to the west is Tango. Correct, and the previous fence was up along the ridge line, past our retardant.
There's this big computerized tank right there on the bottom. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah.
from branch 4 on command. The wind's in our favor. We might want to pull back on that.
We've done a bit of a video on this last year when we covered the 747, and we talked about this one as well. I want to get on board this aircraft when he's parked and take a good tour and give you a good video of how these operate from inside the aircraft. But that's the retardant tanks right there, multiple tanks. No, it's all done visually. No computers at all. This is all hand visual VFR, hand flown aviation that you're witnessing right here. There's no autopilots involved here at all.
Where exactly is branch 4? Left door. It's starting to cook up in there. I wonder if you could start
They do. They do have one of the primary instruments, bit of automation that you will use on these air tankers nowadays. Let me turn this guy down. Oops. Is TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance Systems. That's one of your bigger helping tools on these air tankers today. Yeah, should be 6,000 gallon capacity, I believe. It's the same. Yeah, air tanker flying hasn't changed much. It's just that air tankers themselves have. Well, I hope he keeps track of that DC-10. Water is not very effective, especially here. The question is, why don't they just drop water on the fire? Well, the helicopters do that. The helicopters will support a direct attack directly onto the flames using water. The air tankers, their whole mission is different. It's an indirect attack to slow the flames so the ground crews can get a grip on it using retardant, red retardant, that retards the advance of the flames. It is not designed to put the fire out. It's designed to corral the fire in a perimeter. And it's painted, it's red in color so that you can see it from the air, so that you can extend the line as necessary. Good. We got the DC-10 back on the center of the screen.
Which is south of that 5 freeway, connecting it and extending it to the south and tying
High Sierra flying. See you there next week and next weekend.
microwave towers and water tanks there that extends to the southwest.
He's giving a visual, a verbal description.
The most sense to remain up high along the ridge line versus trying to drop it down into the hole there.
They want to stay up high on the ridge line. They don't like getting these tankers deep down into these holes. That's just dangerous.
That thing scooting along farther to the west on us. And so
Yeah, it is more like crop dusting skills than airliner flying skills for sure in this sort of flying. There he goes, and he's dropping. Well, that's an interesting line. He's trying to stay with the train going down that hill. He's getting down into the smoke there, dropping it down in that hole. There's a good picture of the tank, the retardant raining down onto the foliage. You want it, drop it about 150 feet, 140 or so miles an hour, and just let it rain down on the foliage.
I was wondering the chance of getting another Type 1 out here. Something from the forest, maybe a crane or another 60.
Okay, Type 1 helicopter. There went another lead plane checking out his drop. So it looks like they're going to try another line right along here.
Yeah, they're feeling all over the place. Some are feeling at Whiteman, some Agua Dulce, some Camarillo. Some
Yeah, that was an awesome drop down that canyon.
what's sitting in Fox right now, or what's in San Bernardino that I could put to use.
And of course, the lead plane leading the tanker into the drop and hopefully leading him safely out of the drop area as well. And it's the job of the lead plane pilot to come up with an effective and useful use of these air tankers and a safe use for them once they come up onto the fire. And this is one of the few spots where they could find enough clear air, free of smoke obscuration, to start building some line here. Yeah, the red stuff is virtually harmless to the environment. It's clay and fertilizer.
Yeah, I think our best bet is we march it back from the...
You'll have to go back. The question is, how do they refill these air tankers? You've got to go back and look at the look up 747 air tanker Blancolirio and watch that another award-winning episode. We show you how they reload these things at the base. It's about a 20-minute turn. They got to go to specific air tanker bases that have the mixed tanks where they can mix the retardant with the water, reload the aircraft quickly, and head back to the fire. A little bit of trivia about the KC-10 is, since it's a former airliner, they still have a bathroom on board that airplane, and since it's about 3 stories tall, they just stay in that airplane all day long, use the restrooms that are built into the bathroom, into the aircraft, and hoist the lunches up to them on buckets. Is that a helicopter working direct attack on those hot flames right there? The airspace restrictions for the helicopters, well, they're basically just separating everybody by altitudes. So they're telling the helicopters to stay roughly at or below 3,000 feet. Fixed wing aircraft are about 5,000 feet. And then news helicopters are way up there at 8,000 feet. And I think they're outside of the TFR, because the news helicopters, like the one we're watching right now, has a very high definition, very powerful camera that can zoom a long ways away to get this action. And it's an incredible amount. Thanks, Brad. And an incredible amount of stability with these cameras that we're viewing from here today. I think Axis Engineering right here in Grass Valley was producing these kind of cameras. Okay, the DC-10. So that may have been a partial drop, and he may have the other half of his load still in the aircraft. As he comes around, this should still be tanker 911. If we can read his numbers. I did know some of these pilots in years past. I'm not too familiar with the pilots' names personally today, but I knew a lot of them back 20 years ago when I was training up. Well, there's the freeway backed up. The smoke that you're seeing in Sacramento is from the Bryceburg fire near Yosemite with the winds. Well, the winds have been a bit out of the east, and we're knocking that smoke straight down into Sacramento. I think that should be, those winds should be switching around to a more normal westerly direction, and that smoke should be clearing out. I take it that the water from the, what was that question, last question again about containment with the air tankers? So there's the Pacific Ocean out there. Yeah, the power around here is slowly coming back on. The power's back on in town, and they're working their way up the hill here. Should be a day or two. We'll get power back on here. East Columbia smoke is blowing north. Yeah, Yosemite is where that Bryceburg fire is. It's near Yosemite. The World War II bombers as air tankers? No, the P-2V was the last of the round-engine air tankers, just retired by Neptune Aviation a year or two ago, and they're all in the museums now. So it's all modern jet turbine aircraft, and turboprops. Thanks for watching all the way back since Oroville. No, this is nothing. This fire here, this is a normal day in Southern California. This fire is just another typical day in Southern California firefighting. This is nothing new. These crews are professional, and this is what they do every summer, every year. Because this is the Chaparral that is designed to burn. Now there's a good helicopter dropping water right on the hot spot. So that's what water is effective for. And the helicopters can move slowly enough to drop a heavy enough amount of water to be effective on the hot spot. This is completely different from the retardant that the fixed wing aircraft are doing. Where's this at? This is in Southern California. The Saddleridge fire near, now I've already forgotten the name of the San Fernando Valley area, Southern California.
Earlier, is that East Elko then over there?
Where I-5 comes into the San Fernando Valley.
The highway earlier, we're on the east side currently. If you've got eyes on us, this is East Elko. If we go back to work at this stuff over here, that's East Elko.
DC-6 and DC-7 still working. That's right. I think you're right. They are. Those are darn good air tankers. Thanks, Wayne. The question was about radial engine air tankers. Wayne's right. I think there are some DC-6s and 7 still on contract. This is not close to where I live at all. This is Southern California. I live in Northern California. This is several hundred miles away. California is a huge state, and it's like we have two separate states. Northern California and Southern California are two different scenes altogether. This whole firefighting scene in Southern California is completely different than the wildland timber firefighting that we experience here in Northern California.
And we're flying over right now that area once it cleans up.
Now, as much as this is high-octane Chaparral down here, this does, however, look like some timber as they get up higher in elevation. Yeah, Phosgene does tend to fertilize and invigorate regrowth. Yep, junction of I-5 and State 14. There are some 415s out here. I saw them this morning. Yeah, no problem in the urban sprawl down there for the most part.
We just couldn't
Yeah, California is hugely long state. So they got some they got some fire breaks right in here, and they can see the firefighters can get right on there, and they'll probably put a stop to it right along there. And then you've got huge fire break right here. I suspect that's the freeway. Thanks, Two Wheels.
For your awareness, we'll be trying to get retarded in there all morning, and that would help the issue in there also. That's Bravo 6.
The I-5, yes. Pretty hot activity in there. Just go ahead and let it burn out and just let it burn right on up into there. And if they have to, they can let it burn right back up into here. No big deal. Yep, every year this season, this area burns every year with the windy season. Smoke and engine performance. No, that's not too much of a factor, but what's inside that smoke, you'd be amazed flying around in that smoke. You can see huge pieces of ash flying around in there. That's why you generally want to stay away from the smoke. You can see just big chunks of ash and crap in there that, I tell you, as a lead plane pilot, you get down in that smoke and you start working 3-hour shifts in there, and eventually you end up with a big old headache from it. The air tankers, of course, they're in and out and back to base, so they're not as impacted by the smoke. But as far as the engines, it should be no problem. Now, on that DC-9 Erickson air tanker, it's the flow of the retardant. We'll talk about that if he comes back into the scene. With those rear-mounted engines, sometimes the retardant can be a problem being ingested into those rear-mounted engines. You also want to stay out of the way of retardant from tankers ahead of you, as that can obscure your vision greatly if you get splattered by retardant from a tanker ahead of you, especially if you're daisy chaining right behind somebody else. Here's one of your bigger helicopters. What is that? Is that a Sikorsky Sky Crane? Looks like it. That's your Type 1. And dropping a nice big load of water. Notice he's got a tank similar to an air tanker, and he drops that water direct attack onto the flames and cools it right down. That way they can get this stopped right along this road here.
On the green side of the parkway that you had mentioned, and we'll try and keep that thing up.
And I've forgotten the capacity of those sky cranes, but it's pretty big. If somebody could look that up, that should be a couple thousand gallons of water or more. And they got that snorkel thing. They can go suck up some water somewhere quickly with the Sikorsky Sky Crane. The DC-10 is at this fire. We just watched them drop twice. The location of this fire is Southern California at the intersection of I-5 and 14. 26,500. What did we just saw fly by there? Missed that. 2650 gallons on that Sikorsky. That's huge. That's like a medium-sized air tanker. Yeah, volcanic ash is an issue, but that's a whole different issue. Why don't fixed wings do that too? Do what? Water drops? Just stay tuned. We'll explain it again here. Do I have a scanner running for the fire crews? No, I'm simulcasting Broadcastify Los Angeles County fire incident frequency along with this NBC live feed from NBC News. The C-130s from Magoo. Great point. Great question. How come the MAFs are not working this fire yet? Well, remember the MAFs, the Modular Airborne Firefighting System, the U.S. Air Force guys, or reserves or guard units typically. They're not the active duty guys. Those are held in reserves and only used generally once your commercial contract resources are stretched too thin. Right now, this fire season here in Northern California has been pretty easygoing, and we've got plenty of contract resources, fixed wing firefighting resources available, so they do not need to call the military MAFs out yet at this time. But they are trained up and ready to go and are watching this closely, and they may very well fire them up if things continue at this pace. But right now, it's all the contract firefighters and CAL FIRE. Remember, as far as contract goes, there's two types here in California. There's CAL FIRE air tankers that work under the DynCorp contract, and then there's federal air tankers that work under a variety of federal contracts that can often be called into California.
That's 7 and 4, and I think that's 5.
Yeah, not every day you get to fly a 7.3 like a crop duster. BA 146 is good, and I saw one of those out here today on the fire. That's right. They got to lower the legs to keep the dang retardant out of the engines when they drop it. They found that the engines would darn near quit with the retardant flying back up into the engines, and they could improve upon it by lowering the gear. Yeah, DynCorp runs the CAL FIRE firefighting contract for the pilots and the maintenance. Yeah, it's not a real big fire by SoCal standards. Yeah, water weighs a lot, and fire retardant weighs even more than water. It's very heavy because it's got clay mixed in with it. Yeah, I think latest report is something like 78 homes lost in this fire. Is the fire still heading west? Yeah. It's kind of spreading left and right as well, I believe, and that's what they're trying to put a stop to. And it's backing up as well, and it's backing up down to the freeway here. They want... Hear that? Significant activity on the I-5 side near the target area. They want to get this reopened, and now that the fire's bumping into the freeway.
Go to LA County air to ground. We're using this for I'll correction V6. Go to V6. Northeast and try and find a place to dive down to the I-5.
Oh, they want to dive down on the 5? That'll be sporty. Are they talking helicopters or fixed wing?
Up there, see if there's a spot with a hydrant somewhere up there. We're checking out the 150 Alpha. 150 Alpha would be our second place to put that. If we could come up with some Eternal Valley that has some concrete that we could put that on and has a hydrant close by, that would be great.
Yeah, there's not a lot of threat out here. I wouldn't put a lot of risk into working this fire near the freeway. The freeway's a natural enough fire break in itself. Who we got there?
Branch 5 from Structure Defense Group 54.
That's the 5514 interchange. Yeah, was that a UFO? No, I think that was one of the lead planes. They're checking out the scene there at the I-5.
I'd like to request LA City J hat be added to our incident and assigned to your branch, and I'll have them work with 1120 Alpha, who have moved up into the gas facility. We have some concerns there and would like to get some hazmat personnel. American at 1394.
Yeah, it's good to keep your brush cleared away from the freeway, because that's typically where your fires start in SoCal. Is somebody cooks their brakes. The grapevine, it happens all the time, and they pull off the side of the freeway and sets the brush on fire, and up the mountain it goes, and then you got one big fire, and then that starts backing up traffic. Other people start pulling over, and then they subsequently set more of the Chaparral on fire. we trained down there in that section of LA when we were training up for the lead plane job, and
Copy that.
witnessed that all the time.
Tampa assessment. Roger.
There you go, I-5 and 14. There's the Google Map overlay.
4, I'll pass off your left door.
Of where this fire's at.
Operation from
Some neat new technology.
Got that.
Still tells looking for.
Commander join headed. Branch 5 from Oscar.
So it looks like they'll keep it, try and keep it along this ridge here and keep it from backing down this ridge if they can, but they're not, I don't see them building a lot of retardant line in here
From LA
at this time.
to report to
There's,
Tampa.
there's just not much sense in spending a lot of money trying to stop the fire here if you've got this big natural fire break here. So they might just let this play out and see if it bumps up against the freeway. Yeah, you can't be flying any drones anywhere near these forest fire activities, or that'll put a stop to the entire air show. I believe power was on when this fire started, but this particular fire is not power line related that we know of at this time.
Way on the east side.
Yeah, the freeway should be fine. It doesn't get too hot.
From deputy up to east of the 14 and the 5.
Yeah, the power companies were debating what to do with the power in Southern California. They've been watching the debacle unfold here in Northern California, and I think have been reticent to repeat and get caught up in the furor that the power outage up here in Northern California has caused.
7 is the farthest west north of the fire.
They can't bury these power lines because it's just rock. You can't bury the power lines in rock. Look at the miles and miles of power lines that are here. It's just impractical.
Attempting to light there along I-5 to square things
Yeah, I got a little bit going on there in the median now. Might as well let that burn out and clean it up now. Yeah, the garbage truck picking up burning load and dropping it started. I don't know if it started this Saddleridge fire or a different fire in Riverside County.
all the way to all of you. It doesn't look like there's an officer there.
Well, our feed's getting a little glitchy here.
Yep. Police, go ahead.
Inbound to UCLA, Ronald Reagan for IFC transfer, and we are about 8 minutes out. ETA is 8 minutes.
I-5. Notice that you got
Okay,
yourself
we're
and
back
a couple
on.
other helicopters in there, and just want to start working with you on that. Okay, east side of I-5, sir.
Thanks, Scramble.
Talking about the area with the large smoke column near the landfill.
Now,
Have permits to go
these giant transmission lines, I suspect, I don't know if they've been depowered or not. I suspect they would be, but it's a pretty big deal to depower the large transmission lines.
and the 5 kind of turns to the northwest and heads up towards Gorman area. So I think we're out of your way.
Okay, we got there, what was that, a BA-146, one of the Neptune aircraft, tanker 1-5 on the scene. This is one of your medium-sized air tankers, probably about 2,000-gallon capacity. BA-146. That's correct. Thanks, John. Thanks, Pete. The old BAs, we used to tease them as 4 engine failures held together by a common electrical fault, but they actually make a pretty darn good air tanker. And of course, Neptune has a fleet of them, and that replaces their P2Vs and SB2Hs, the old round engine air tankers and round engines mixed with jets.
The yellow type 1. Okay, I'm trying to...
Firefighting for me, I grew up in the air tanker industry, working on these aircraft as a kid, and basically being raised by air tanker pilots. And in between my Air Force duty and the airlines, I spent a year training up to be a lead plane pilot for the U.S. Forest Service and was going to make a career out of aerial firefighting. But then the airlines called and I went that way instead. But I still have a very keen interest in the in this rather obscure facet of aviation. Not a lot of folks understand much about what air tankers do. Okay, they're coming up with a plan.
Right here, where we are, we're going to continue down this ridge, and that's going to be our work. Okay, that's definitely going to affect what we're doing then. So.
Okay, they're coordinating with the helicopters.
Let me know, and we'll have to clear them out when you're ready for the drop.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be ready to go live next time around if you'll be ready.
Okay, so that was a kind of a show me run. There's a bit of firewall go there.
And 37 Sierra. Tankers are going to come over the top of the Disney Ranch. So I need you to either hold and set down in the grass field or hold out to the...
They're coordinating with the helicopters to get the helicopters out of the way right over the Disney Ranch area so that they can make a couple of drops with the fixed-wing air tankers. And this is the main job of the lead plane pilot, is to coordinate all of this such that they keep the aircraft separated, especially helicopters versus fixed-wing. Thanks, Many Faces. S2s are still working in Southern California. Yep, ridge fires are, well, all these fires are dangerous, especially in these windy wind conditions. But yeah, they can back right down the ridge into the wind. So hopefully this NBC cameraman, wow, there's a neat little firewall. Hopefully this NBC cameraman who's kind of mesmerized by the fire activity will back out and show us this airdrop activity.
You can either hold the load, sir, or just stay over the target area until the tanker's clear.
Okay, so that's the helicopter coordinator coordinating with his helicopters to get him out of the way for the fixed wing air tanker drop, which I believe is the BAE 146 Tanker 15.
Copy. I thought you were trying to get a hold of me earlier. Airtech 07, you have traffic on National?
Yeah, the news guy.
Pretty good.
Thanks, Mike. They're using a variety of airports. I think Fox Field primarily, maybe Channel Islands, but I heard something about IFR maybe on Channel Islands. I'm not sure about that.
We've got a couple bowls burning out in there. The El Carrizo hot shots are working that. Is it further north than that?
Yeah, these are Santa Ana winds, but they're not extreme winds right now, it doesn't look like. If the winds were extreme right now, you would have no fixed-wing air tanker activity at all on the fire.
I wouldn't worry about it too much because it's just going to slop over this little bit of hill and stop.
See, slop over the hill and stop is what he's saying. And Van Nuys Airport, yeah. There's a media van on the freeway there. No, it's far from under control, that's for sure.
Also, we're just coming over to communication from operations on Commander 10 o'clock. The
Yeah, I think 7-4 was last seen dispatched down to Bolivia for the Amazon fires. But this fire is not really big enough for the 747 either at this time. And if you notice the heavy air tankers that they're using, they're only dropping partial loads, short runs.
Okay, that explains it. Mine's at 105. LA, did you copy?
Do we need more air support? I think they're using the right amount of resources on this fire at this time. Here's that's the line they were working this morning. 8,500 for the TV copters and above.
If we get it up and running at full, you have 2 places to dip from. Sounds good. 3,000 here, copy, thanks. We'll be departing southeast now. Back to Wyman.
Shut this here. Shut the dog up.
105 knots. And ascertain what altitude they'll need. I didn't get that as part of the transition.
Yeah, this is all Southern California.
Outgoing air attack. So was the TFR amended?
Yeah. Chewy, shut up.
I can head back to the dip. 5-8. Okay, affirmative.
California is so dry because it's our climate. It's our Mediterranean climate, especially Southern California, which is basically a desert. This is the high-octane Chaparral country of Southern California that burns every year.
Tankers arrived. We'd like to get them in when we get an opportunity.
We got another tanker on the scene here.
All right. We'll hold the...
This dries out every summer, and then we get these Santa Ana wind conditions, the strong winds blowing from the east to the west, downslope winds, drying winds, pushes these fires along. It's just natural conditions. Yeah, this is the natural Southern California wildland interface. Black bears, not brown bears. I think the 7-3 is flying out of Fox Field. We don't know the ignition source for this fire yet. So that's going to make a good fire break right there, and this ridge along here.
I'm looking for you. I believe I have 11 over the 14 right now. Looking for you for.
Yeah, no brown bears left in California. I made that mistake on one of my previous videos. We have bears here in our yard all the time, getting into our trash, and we even after securing the trash.
Copter 532 airtime. Copter 532 airtime.
I've got the generator off right now, but yeah, I'm still on generator. We still have no power here at the house. Yeah, what do you see on FlightAware there? They're using Fox Field primarily.
There's something about 12 miles out, coming in like 250 knots.
I hope this news guy gets on the fixed wing air tanker activity. That's what we're here for, is to see how that's going along. Yeah, not much going on here right now.
Operations, comm leader, yeah. You were blocked there, that wasn't transmitting.
So ABC 10 showing a better up. So there are 3 different... I need 3 computer screens and need to be flipping around to get me one of those Telestream switchers so we can get the guy that's got the better feed. 2 MD-87s inbound from Santa Barbara. All right.
Eastbound. We're over the 5 right now. Okay, that's 5. 5, 4. Gotcha. That's not right. And dispatch, Saddleridge air tech.
ABC blocked in Sweden. I guess I could try that. That's a good idea.
Helicopter 1 released for the GPS 32. Copy, you're cleared in. Altimeter 3016. Currently at 528.
Where's that CBS?
37 Sierra working out of the Disney range. We're working on another West Coast. You'll see it when you get here, but it's not up yet. This helicopter was
Saddleridge, Airtown, copy, 1248.
37 Sierra. It's an S64 Revlon Summer Brothers. And you've got a Chroman 61.
We'll try that. Now, where was I? Right here? Yeah. That'll take a bit to come up.
Yeah, you're like a white dot. Branch 4, 1105.
Yeah, the NBC news feed is not showing much activity. How long is a tanker turnaround? It takes about 20 minutes to fill one up. 15, 20 minutes for a large air tanker once he's on the ground, plus the flight time to and from the fire. This is marginal 4G service here at best. I'm using the Verizon hotspot because we got no power. And liters, don't know, we're talking gallons over here. The large air tankers up to 6,000 gallons, medium air tankers 2,000 to 3,000 gallons. Let's see if we got anything over there on CBS yet. I got nothing.
Down here, that stuff is burning right above the freeway there. A couple things. One, probably going to need some maintenance over there. The Oak Street Gun Club. Start doing some structure assessment, possible protection in the near
Yeah, see if you can find a channel with a better feed. Amphib planes, yeah, Southern California, it's always been a controversy because unless you're a helicopter, especially a heavy helicopter dropping a lot of water on active flames, moving at a very slow speed, anything less than that is not very effective with just water.
1105 from Branch 4, go ahead on command.
You're losing it, NBC. And I got nothing over here on CBS.
We were not firing. I heard someone saying something. We are just getting our way, ourselves out to the freeway there. Yeah, so I head back that way somewhere I left.
Glitching out, buffering. Yeah, we got lots going. Doing a live feed through here as well. Sure, thanks for checking in, Two Wheels. Yeah, this is a long one. We've been at it an hour 17 here.
Having some radio issues. I think I got them resolved, but I'm going to head up and over.
We got something going on there.
See what's going on over there.
It's helicopter dropping water. The Sikorsky getting as close as he can to the, without getting into the smoke. And it's not, yeah, I got to watch the screen. It's not so much that the smoke is, well, it's not good for the engine, but it's primarily a lack of visibility. You just can't see in the smoke. You got to stay out of the smoke so you can see where you're going. Everything here is VFR, visual flight rules.
What 1105 report NTC Charlie, and they're on D-Fire 25.
Well, oh, what's this?
The people for sure.
Boy, when we look at that live picture.
Oh, I don't want to have to listen to her. Let's see. Goodness sakes.
Smoke headed toward his home.
Yeah.
So out in Port Ranch for us this afternoon.
Victor, on crew.
Tina, where are you?
Uh-oh. I don't want to listen to these folks.
We're on Beaufort Avenue.
Hey Dan, I'm still pinched here with this flare up on this edge. I don't even know if you'll be able to get back through. Are you in a good spot?
Yeah, I'm in a good spot. If you're not going to come through, I might go ahead and just continue on to the north just to survey the road a little more.
That sounds like ground crews talking to each other.
Yeah, copy. The fire activity is not dying down at all.
The area is densely populated in the valleys below. When they zoom out, you'll see the houses below. This is the virtually unpopulated or sparsely populated ridges and mountains above the highly populated valleys below. Yeah, I always keep a million tabs open on my laptop.
You'll see us coming over the ridge momentarily. Copters will be clear in behind us.
Cell towers have their own generator power, I guess, to keep them up and operating. as they are a part of our emergency infrastructure.
Okay, helicopter 528. I'm about 10 minutes from Bingo Fuel. I can drop and pick my crew up. Copy that. Thank you. This is hold north of the Newhall Pass, 8500. I got both.
Newhall Pass, 8500.
5 got you in sight. Roger.
Yep, that's a hot spot.
Copies, we're going to come up to the 14 and make a left turn back to the west.
Well, that's how the afternoon's going to go in Southern California. And again, this event will continue on as long as the winds continue to blow. The best firefighters can do is kind of corral the situation here. They're not going to be able to put this fire out until weather conditions change. And that's just typical firefighting behavior in Southern California. So if they can just keep this corralled and keep this out of the homes. And these winds should die off later on tonight, and then the fire behavior will change completely. And they'll be able to easily put it out once the winds die down, or let it burn out. Okay, here it's starting to back down this ridge. See, it's gone past the fire break here, and it's spotting and working its way back. There's a big spot right there. There's a classic spot fire right there. That's heating up the rest of this vegetation, and it's going to get this thing rolling down this ridge into the wind. Against the wind, yes. And against the train. I mean, literally downhill into the wind. It's not nearly as fast of an advance, but nevertheless.
Southeast corner and the 5210 junction. I would be okay with that.
ABC 7.
Sierra from East Telco. How you doing over there? It looks like that area is putting up quite a bit of heat now. Hey, I could sure use you over here if West Telco doesn't have any more assignments for you over there.
Thanks, Sakura. Yeah, it's thick chaparral, and this may be getting into some timber up in here. Hey Pete, what's that?
Yeah, copy that. Quick tower kilos off the drop.
Still no power. We're live.
And don't come like clear back in. You've been up.
You're locked in.
Like 9 hours. Oh boy.
Live Oaks, yeah.
What are we?
Operations from branch.
We're live on the Saddleridge Fire, Southern California, intersection of I-5 and I-14. Here's the fire backing down the ridge now, backing into the wind. And the link is on Broadcastify. Look up Broadcastify, Los Angeles County, major incident, air frequencies. Yeah, look at the chocolates, Jenny. Oh, my Jenny just spotted the chocolates. Over here, Jenny, try one of these. Brought to you by Santa Barbara Chocolates. Try that. Well, Pete kind of got into him. Try to keep it on this ridge, but it's not. It's gonna go past this ridge, and it's gonna head down into here and probably take all of this out today too. Here it comes down the ridge. It just looks like a hot lava flow.
Okay, I got you inside. Thank you.
Good point. 41st says on broadcast, if I go to top 50, and it'll be number 1.
Fire 25 in the tangle. Campbell, 10:05. And that's to the gun
How
club,
do I,
correct?
sometimes these comments go by so quick I can't catch them.
Special delivery, huh?
If you want to stay on the ground for now until the tankers drop, then we'll get you out of there.
Yeah, that's SantaBarbaraChocolates.com. Yeah, I got to service the generator after this has been a good long run on the generator the last 3 days here. Slow mode for chat, okay? Yep, Santana's or Santa Ana winds or Santana winds.
Okay, sorry about that, I missed it.
Or what
As soon as you
the weather phenomenon is that we're working with or looking at right now.
pass at your 12 o'clock, I'm going to clear everybody out.
Jesus Christ.
Division 4 from Deputy Op 2. You're going to be getting striking 10:05. Copy.
Don't turn KCRA on, LOL. Yeah. No, I just use, I'm using 100 octane in my generator. Mighty Luscombe gas, since I grounded from flying, I might as well use that gas for something. What kind of distance is that view? That's a good question. These news helicopters are up at 8,000 feet and are probably more than 2 miles away from the fire. The cameras that they're using are very impressive. High definition that can zoom, telephoto zoom with incredible stability. Yeah, it is just racing down that hill now, isn't it?
West of the 14th. And then I'll clear you down the 14th from there.
Not yet.
Brute force. I'm going, I'm lighting it up. 14ers light it up.
Well, insurance companies, I mean, this is typical, normal Southern California fire behavior every year, so it's really nothing new here.
I don't know if they can amend their departure, if they can maintain center line or east and climb straight out to the north until they're beyond the TFR, then they looks like they could be clear to get out that way.
The TFR, the temporary flight restriction area. Okay, where is the CBS live video? Is it this one here?
It's kind of hard to tell. I'm not sure their runway directions there, but if they're using the northeastern facing runway, I think that will.
And that's the whole idea of water, Larry, is that's all it does is it just cools it down a little bit and slows the rate of spread and hopefully will bump up against your fire containment lines a little more gently. That's all you're trying to do.
Go ahead and expedite that transition, please.
You're not exactly trying to put it out completely.
Branch 1, come in. Branch 1, call leader.
Yeah, it's Fleet Week in San Francisco. The Blue Angels are in town. They were in Capital City Air Show last weekend in Sacramento.
Need for a fuel tender. They could bring that out to all of you. Got a significant number of IA resources running pretty low. Break.
Your set boys bringing it back.
Second is that side of the.
Yeah, root fires can go on for a long time until the rains come.
You're on point and did like, but we'll need 250 lunches delivered when possible. 250 lunches in branch 1 and need a fuel tender. Repeat the location.
Hey, Casey, a copy on that V6. Hey, Casey.
Olive, you.
Step away for fuel. Hey, just
Copy at the hospital.
It's just an option too. You can't find a good
No, that's just an update. I don't see where the live feed is here on CBS 7.
Stand by to have to hold if it did say one more time. And have a drop for a lat long for that drop point for the ledges if that's desirable too.
Oh yeah, it'll take several days to even begin to get containment on this.
Branch 1 comm leader, go ahead and give me the lat long. 34, don't go on. 1941. Still go west. I'm going to have to go for fuel in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to hold south of the tanker line. And once the copters have gone in and made...
Well, as far as the Santa Ana wind year is hard to say. The Santa Ana winds are just individual sporadic events.
Clear, but I understand their departure procedure probably has to do with the terrain that would be directly off of the runway.
There goes our sky crane. You can see the snorkel hanging below. He uses to draw his water up. And look at the cone of the blades, the amount of lift, the incredible amount of lift these blades produce.
As low as 8,000 or 7,000 even, whichever makes it easiest. But again, I'm not sure if that'll work with them because of the departure requirements with the terrain. 17 and 528 are down for fuel.
Yeah, 528's gone to white.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever tried this type of live stream. There it goes. There goes the water drop out of the tank. It's like a giant paintbrush with that tank. You can fly sideways and just put that water exactly where he wants to. Yeah, first time I tried a live stream like this. This morning I experimented with it and it actually worked.
Aircraft are monitoring the Victor and they can hold their present positions once he lets them know tankers are live.
Okay, break Bravo 71 right air tank.
Bravo 71, copy that direct. Only question is 43 Tango, where's he at? 43 Tango was not in front of the picture. I do not know where he is.
KT4 on B3.
Okay, so for you it's just 4 Charlie Kilo and 532.
Yeah, still talking about helicopters. Pretty much a helicopter show at this time.
West, but work in your area.
Yeah,
Today, Molly got dressed for a big night out with her forces.
I'm not sure on that
you want to see around, that makes most sense.
Sikorsky, what the blades are made of nowadays.
Go ahead and try to do a graduate around 40 party. Make sure that we're not missing anything, and we'll come back to the station. The only water dropping airplanes you might see on this fire are the CL-415s, the Canadian water bombers. All the rest of the fixed wing assets are dropping fire retardant, the red fire retardant. This is I-5, I think, right here. Fire is bumping down right to it.
1120 Alpha. Copy all transmissions, and as you
And this'll just work its way right down to the freeway eventually. No sense stopping it in here. There's no assets of value to risk working in there.
I'll let you tie in with them when they...
Yeah, we're all clear here in Northern California so far as wildfires go. We just got thousands of us still out of power. Hey, Jenny, was there power on in town?
Yeah.
Did you get gas?
Yeah.
Was there lines?
No.
It was ops normal. All right, report from my Jenny there says it's ops normal downtown.
Totally normal.
Oh.
Credit card machines were glitched out by the power surge.
Wow, okay, so the credit card machines don't work at the pumps after the power outage, but fuel is available.
Kind of what we talked about, 340 straight out until they're beyond the TFR and they can turn. And looking at the GPS, it looks like if they do that 340, they'll be just on the east side of that southeastern tip. So they'll be just right at the edge of the TFR, essentially, is what it looks like from the GPS anyways.
Well, I wish I could find some better air tanker activity for you for this. This is just backing down towards the freeway and is not of much significance at this point. Yeah, remember they used to do that at Reno? The Sky Crane would pick up a vehicle. They would pretend that somebody was parked in a wrong spot and ask him to move his car throughout the day, and then the Sky Crane would pick up his car and then drop it right at stage center at the Reno Air Races. That was one of the better things I remember seeing from the Reno Air Races years ago.
Kilo, Bravo 71, if I can
Now you can see where this is filling in here.
532 and 372 same traffic.
Yep, not much more going on here. So, no, this fire is in, we've been watching footage of the Saddleridge fire in Southern California near, what's the name of that town, Jenny? In Southern California?
near Los Angeles. Instead of towns, you just know by freeway names. It's the I-5 and the 14 freeway intersection. Initially, or earlier today, it was reported about 4,700 acres. I think there were some 73 structures lost. This has been live coverage of it on the NBC News feed, along with the Spotify radio broadcast. Look up Spotify, Los Angeles County, major incident, air frequencies. So keep watching that. We'll see you here. Stay safe, and thanks so much for your support of this station and your support on Patreon. We'll see you here. And Santa Barbara Chocolates, we just got your chocolates. We're going to take an in-depth study of this and promote your product. Thanks. See you here. What do you think, Jenny? Is that good stuff?
Yeah, they've given us some things we need to find out more about.
Okay.
A variety of products.
Yes. All right. Looks good.